friend. Karen, come on in. See you. Okay. I think we can just take this. Yeah, this is good. Yeah, I'll come from this side. I might have to do one more here. It's all right. Well, welcome, and welcome to all those kids who came from school. So this is school today here. A lot of learning in a little time, but I'm sure you're going to get back home today with something that you would probably use today and then for a long time. So I wanted to kick off this small business panel. The word starts with small, but I'll tell you, this is the biggest part of the economy. And I think that's where we should focus. A part of the economy is now, relentlessly under attack, and I don't think they're getting much help. So we assembled this panel with the view that we have a voice of the small business and the customer, and that's Jeff Fair. Jeff will introduce himself. Many of you know him, and then Karen as the organization representing that leadership who brings the resources for learning and training and equipping them. And Corey, my friend here, is making that service available and accessible. There are actually other friends here also who are focused squarely on the small businesses. So Jeff, why don't we kick off with you and get you introduced to those here and online.
Well, thanks, Val. I appreciate it. For everybody in the audience, my name is Jeff Fair. I'm the VP for Cybersecurity and Economic Development at the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. We have just under 1,700 members here in San Antonio. One of the things that we do as part of our programs at the Chamber, we host several councils and committees. One of the councils that we host is a Cybersecurity Council. We like to convene basically everybody in the cybersecurity ecosystem, from educators, cybersecurity product and services companies, CISOs, you name it, here in San Antonio, bring everyone together. And part of that is we have a public-private partnership with the city of San Antonio, and that's called Cybersecurity San Antonio. And we use our Cyber Council to host that group as well. And we facilitate dialogue about our ecosystem. How do we continue to grow it? Where do we see, not necessarily gaps, there are gaps sometimes, but where do we see places that don't have as much maybe throughput or capacity as we need to continue our growth? I've been with the Chamber for about 2 years, and before that, I was a career Army officer. I was an intel officer. My last duty station was NSA Washington, where I served as a fellow in the director's office, worked in his Commander's Action Group, and did a couple of operational assignments as well. So that pushed me into that cyberspace. And we continue to dialogue with our companies, both large and small, across San Antonio about what their cybersecurity concerns are, what their needs are, and hopefully I can share some of that today.
Absolutely, and I think this nicely follows the two conversations we had before returnship, right? So thank you for your service, Jeff, and coming back to this to help us in the small business side. Karen.
Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Evans, and I'm the Managing Director of the Cyber Readiness Institute. And thank you, Val, for inviting me. We're focused on small and mid-sized businesses, and we're a nonprofit. And my member companies, I'm going to give a shout out to them, are Apple, GM, Microsoft, MasterCard, the Center for Global Enterprise, and Principal Insurance, and ExxonMobil. And so you can see that our membership covers a wide range of folks and different areas, and so we're going to get into it. So I don't want to go too much into a lot of what we do because I get too excited when I get a mic. And but I am going to give a little bit of my background as well. And so I spent my career in the federal government, and Corey and I were sharing our experiences in cybersecurity, and I had the dubious honor of having the first website ever hacked in the federal government in 1996, which was the Department of Justice. And that changed my life forever. I will tell you the happiest day in my life was 2 weeks later when the CIA's website was hacked and we were no longer on the front page of the Washington Post. But since then, I've held different positions in the government. I was the Chief Information Officer at Department of Energy. I also ended up being what is now the Chief Information Officer of the federal government for 6 years in the Bush administration, where I was in charge of all the information technology, cybersecurity. It's the 20th anniversary of the eGov Act, and so that's also when the Federal Information Security Management Act passed, which many people fondly call FISMA. I left and formed a nonprofit called the U.S. Cyber Challenge. So a shout out to all the young people here. Get into the field. I know you're excited, or you wouldn't be here. So we just had that big discussion about workforce. Then went back in and started a new office called it was the Assistant Secretary for Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response, where we were responsible for everything that happened in the energy sector. And then finished up that tenure as the Chief Information Officer of Department of Homeland Security, where I had the honor to handle the incident response of SolarWinds. So I'll stop there so that we can go and hand it over to Corey, because his career is just as exciting.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. So yeah, our careers mirrored each other because she goes back to 96. I go back to 95, and so I've been in the industry for 27 years, and it's been an honor. It's been a blast. And a little bit what I'll talk about, today is I've learned after all those years in the cybersecurity industry, I've been doing most of the things wrong. And I'll talk about why and what I've learned over that. Cyber attacks. And if cyber attacks are increasing 15% year over year, maybe we need to pivot. Maybe we need to do some things better, especially as it relates to small to medium-sized businesses. So quickly going through my career, I'm starting in 1985. I literally started working and supporting Windows 95, August 24th, 1995, when it came out. The next thing I know, I'm getting bored with that, so I move on to consulting. And my first consulting gigs are literally connecting companies to the internet. The biggest one was Floor Daniels. They're like, Corey, come and connect this global construction company to the internet. Then I figured out, I got to add a firewall. And then next thing I know, I'm the security guy. And so I continued that. I joined the company called Foundstone in 2004. They're the ones that wrote the Hacking Exposed books, lots of industry veterans there. Then the next thing I know, I'm running the West for Foundstone McAfee. I'm running the global incident response team for Foundstone McAfee, and then the deployment team. So a lot of good insights into large global companies. I ended up doing some very large incidents, Operation Aurora, when that happened in 2009, when Google and a bunch of companies in the Bay Area got hacked. Then, involved in the HB Gary hack. If you guys can look that up, it's pretty interesting. That got it. One of the first things to get put on WikiLeaks, or at the time it was Pastebin. And then moved on to a company called Silence in 2012, where we brought artificial intelligence to endpoint security and did some big incidents there, Operation Cleaver, and then later OPM was one of the big incidents that our team got contained. So then in 2019, our company got acquired. Then next thing you know, I'm like, what am I going to do next? I said, let's figure out how to solve cybersecurity as much as we possibly can. So I became founder, CEO of a company called Cyvatar.
Well, now, so I think with all the background, they could be doing anything. The first question I think I have to ask is why small business, right? So maybe Jeff, you can start, because I think you get the front end of this, right?
So I think the why small business, I mean, it's easy for me because I work at a chamber, and the vast majority of our members are small businesses. And yeah, I think we'll probably cover this, but the Small Business Administration considers a small business 500 employees or under. And when we talk about cities like San Antonio, we see that kind of in the 250 and under. And that's where I think our challenges in this area are. But it is small businesses in a city as big as San Antonio, it's still, that is what fuels the economy. That is the vast majority of job creation in the city. And for the most part, it is the future of the city. As these businesses are nurtured and they continue to grow, they produce, they make more opportunities available for people to have new jobs. There's a lot of upward mobility opportunities through small business job creation. So I really think not only is it an economic engine for us, but I think for an individual, there's a lot of opportunity in that space. And we've got some great entrepreneurs here, and they are trying to realize their dreams. And there's nothing more exciting than someone, trying to help somebody along their way kind of realize what they've always wanted to do.
So absolutely. I mean, that's very natural. Karen, what is your why in small business?
So everything Jeff said, I agree 100%. But small businesses are, the incubators of innovation. They drive economic change. And they're global. So CRI is focused on small and mid-sized businesses globally. And the other part of this, and the reason why I went, and this is part, I think Colonel Frost brought this up, is leaning forward and thinking where is the next solution set that needs to be done? And so all of us now, I mean, when I came out and worked on workforce issues, it's always about the people. So I think everybody has bought into, we have a workforce issue, we have a gap, we need to deal with this, and it's a global issue. Well, it's the same thing. I'm looking at where's the next threat vector, where's the next space so that we can get ahead, because we have respond and recover down now. Like we can respond to incidences, but we have to be able to protect and detect. And everything now is networked. Every panel has talked about, every company uses technology. Everybody is networked, and it's all about your relationships. And small businesses have working relationships with large businesses. And so that is the soft underbelly of where the cybersecurity challenge is, in order to help make all boats float up so that you can really take advantage of that initiative, drive that economic change, and our adversaries do not. And we can help small businesses against things like ransomware.
Absolutely, and I think it's the threat doesn't discriminate, right? It's all across the board. So Corey, for your why, right? You have spent a career in enterprise security, especially serving big businesses. And then when we started talking like a couple of years back, when Malcolm introduced us, I still remember you were starting and you started giving away stuff to people, like, so use this. I mean, the amount of resources, I think I should probably tell like to just go what is built is you don't have to hire people to put policies. Got like tons of documents that are going to get you started. So why did you do that, Corey?
Well, when I talk about learning about how I did things wrong for 23 years, what I realized is that myself included, the cybersecurity industry, we're not trying to stop cyber attacks, okay? You take what Karen just said when she talked about detect and respond. If you detect and respond in your everyday life, I assume everybody that is here, when you left your house or hotel or wherever you were at, you closed and locked the door, right? That is continuous security, right? But if you detect and respond, maybe your door is open, but you get an alert when somebody comes into your house. That's what detect and respond is. Now let's apply that to a small to medium-sized business. Okay, a small to medium-sized business doesn't have a huge security team, doesn't have a SOC, they pretty much have nothing. So if you take that approach, yeah, you're gonna get hacked. Yeah, ransomware is gonna happen. So small and medium-sized businesses absolutely have to be secured a different way. They actually have to be proactive. You gotta be preventative from the beginning. And so when you look at the industry, we're not taking that approach for the most part. There's a lot of money, and me as a vendor, I've been on the vendor side for a very long time. We made our most of our money off of incidents, what we call the insecurity of security. So that needs to change. And so that's why, Val, when I met you, I was like, let's figure out how to do this differently and actually solve the problem. And after doing it for me, I'm a problem solver. After doing it for 27 years, I'm like, let's get it right this time.
So, take it extended to Karen, you're working, you're being like supported by big businesses to support small businesses. What's the angle around that? I think it's probably definitely the larger organizations kind of have the wherewithal to do things, at least put resources at disposal to, increase budget, hire people. But why do you think the investment of these large organizations in the smaller market?
And I didn't ask him to ask me that, and so it's awesome that you did. And so our member companies, and if you look at the history of the Cyber Readiness Institute, we're 5 years old, so I'm very excited, and I've been here for a year. And it grew out of the work that the CEOs were doing on the Obama Commission when they did that work for as it related to cyber. And what they realized at that point was all the funding was going to go to state and local governments and critical infrastructure. And really, where the economic driver of every country and who they work with are small and mid-sized businesses. So that's the reason why CRI was formed. And then the other thing, which a lot of speakers have talked about, is they also realize that small and mid-sized businesses are challenged by resources. And so you heard some of this yesterday. So all our material, everything that we do, the cyber readiness program, we're focused on human behavior, which you just heard Mike Clark talk about, and the culture of an organization. So as a small business is growing, what we work on and what we outreach to them on is that you build this in as you build your company, and that we've demystified it so we don't have like death, what I call death by PowerPoint. So it's not about the products. It's not about, hey, you got to get a cybersecurity professional. It's really about understanding 4 core issues, which if I give you the statistics of where the incidents happen from, right? Like 9 out of 10 cyber incidences are related to human behavior. I mean, I can go through, so passwords is one of our core 4. 4 in 5 data breaches come from weak or stolen passwords. Another one, our other area is software updates. 60% of breach victims say they were breached due to unpatched known vulnerabilities that weren't applied. Our third area is phishing, emails, right? Okay, just over 1 in 4 employees say that they have fallen to a phishing scam at work in the last 12 months. And so this is up since 2020. And then the last area we focus on is removable media. And it says that has grown, especially with USB drives and exploiting that, has rose from 19% to 52% in 2021. And so when we're focused on those 4 core areas, Microsoft released a statistic last year saying if you implement multi-factor authentication, you could probably prevent at least 90% of issues that happen. So we're focused on these 4 core issues. We've demystified it. We provide all our materials. The Cyber Readiness Program is free. What we also then advocate that there's a cyber leader. And you'll see that it's different personas. Like in a larger company, the HR director might get in charge of cybersecurity. And there's like a little vignette that goes on and says, I don't even know what this is. And so what we try to do is work through this. And by the time they work through our program, everything that you talk about, incident response plans, business continuity plans, do you have backups? Have you tested your backups? Have you done these? You will have these documents and they will have tested them. And you didn't need to bring somebody in. It's common sense around 4 core issues that make them cyber ready to be good partners in that supply chain that they participate in.
Well, I think that's a lot of information and also statistics, numbers, like numbers can't go wrong. And I think it's just more glarier than ever. How do we translate that to Jeff, like communicating that to your stakeholders?
Something that we try to do is regularly update our members on opportunities and available services, right? So CISA's done a great job of starting to put a lot of things out there for free. Karen's organization also does a good job. And I think a lot of the businesses here that I interact with, they know that it's a problem. Yeah. It's hard for them not to know that cybersecurity is something they need to do something about. They just don't know what the first step is. And so a lot of that time it is, chambers are very good at connecting people, so that's what we do. We find someone who's willing to come talk to a small business, take a look at kind of what they're doing. Are you outsourcing your IT? okay, here's some great questions to ask your provider. Are you doing it in-house? Well, then there's a lot of great things on, Karen's team or, the CISA, and you can sign up for regular emails and you can do some training. But there's a little bit of mentoring or at least advising that a community can put together to help some of these small businesses take the first step. And then once they take the first step, there's a lot of resources for them to understand what the next steps are. I think what we run into that's problematic right now is we have small business owners that see Colonial Pipeline. Here in Texas, we have independent school districts, so we've had a couple who also fallen victim to ransomware attacks. So they see ransomware in the news all the time, and they know they need to do something about it. So they start talking about cyber insurance. I need to go get some cyber insurance, not really knowing what they need. And so they're probably buying a policy that's way out of whack for what they need. We've also seen a lot of cyber insurers come into San Antonio specifically and really just trying to sell as many policies as they can, not looking for that tailored approach. But there's also a gap between some companies we've had come in and say, hey, we will provide you cybersecurity protection, and it's very expensive. But there are ways for small businesses to get started if they can dedicate some time, which is also a finite resource for these owners. They can dedicate some time. They don't necessarily have to make a huge initial investment outside of that just to take the first steps.
Absolutely, and I think that is a journey by itself, right? I mean, it has to be a small business taking the first step, following Karen's, kind of journey of demystifying cyber, and then probably choosing a right solution that's appropriate for them. Corey, if I may go to you for the next round about, I think you have seen quite a bit of small businesses getting on the platform and their experiences of 0 to 60. Could you share what do you see in terms of the adoption and how they're embracing the solutions that are available in the market?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think it shadows what everybody else is seeing out there. What we're seeing with a lot of our customers, we have over 100 around the world that are, again, small businesses that are in need, is that simply they don't know what they don't know. The biggest challenge is when they're like, well, what product should we buy? How do we implement this? And so they end up sometimes choosing solutions that don't actually solve the problem. And you go back to the 4 points that Karen's talked about, it's about the outcome of actually being secure. It is not about buying a product. It's not about hiring somebody. It's about actually being secure and blocking these attacks. And so that's one of the evolutions that has happened in the last few years, is where you can outsource and really buy those outcomes. And so that's where we try to help educate them. A lot of things we offer for free policies, free assessments, because I don't want them spending the money on the assessment, the gap analysis, when you can get that for free. And so that's one of the key factors, is education and making sure they're getting the right outcomes from the cybersecurity program.
Yeah, no, that's right. And maybe we extend that, Karen, to you, is about what would be the demystifying factors that, I mean, we really need to break down the myths. First, I think, is, of course, that we are not going to be under attack, or we are not, right? I mean, how do you bridge that gap of communicating that demystification piece?
Well, and so, I spent my whole career in technology, but the biggest thing is it's how you tell the story. It is really about and COVID, the good side of COVID, if there's a good side of COVID, what it really did was open up businesses' eyes to the relationships and the interdependencies they have. And so you can talk about these things about how do you want to continue to go on. So I'm glad you brought up cyber insurance, because that is another area that we're looking at as well. And we've run these pilots to really understand with our member companies the supply chain issues, the second, third tier, fourth tier suppliers in that, and really trying to understand what their issues are, right? So for example, something that is inherently understandable to us, multi-factor authentication. We like, okay, everybody's like, oh, multi-factor authentication. Ooh, that sounds really too hard for me to implement. So we're kind of in the cybersecurity industry a victim of these words that we use. So when we talk with small businesses, we just break it down into, hey, it's something you know, something you have, something you are, right? And you're already using it. And they go, really? And we're like, do you get a text message to your phone that gives you a code? And they go, yeah. I said, well, there you go. You're using multi-factor authentication. And they're like, get out of town. And so I mean, a lot of this, and so that's why we take our material and we really make sure and we run it through. We have a small business advisory council and we run our material through that small business advisory council, right? So that they can really take a look at it and say, yeah, this is going to be useful, or no, that's still way too technical. And so a lot of it is they already have a lot of these products. They're buying services. They're using technology every day. And I bring up these examples because like when I'm in these other big groups, like small businesses use, the Apple, they have an iPad. They use the Square. They're all taking digital currency. They're doing all this stuff. And so they have to have basic processes in place that make them aware of like, ooh, my local vendor, gosh, love them. They've had issues where they've updated things, right? And then next thing you know, they're sending invoices out to everybody where their databases got mishmashed, and we're getting bills saying that we bought flowers for somebody else and we did not. And so like you have to like really give them real life examples of things to work through, and we call them playbooks. And we have ransomware, right? We're working on insurance for them now because that is a really complicated field. We do have a use case out there on our website where a person is talking about how they went through one of our pilots in Hawaii because we were trying to help Hawaii get ready for CMMC, which I know is on your agenda later. And they got cyber insurance because they clearly could demonstrate they had thought about what their policies were, what their risk profile was, and they had an incident response plan, they had a playbook, they had everything, and the insurance company goes, wow, like you're prepared. So they could buy cyber insurance. So a lot of this is like what's in it for them, and then just taking a lot of the technology out of it because it's really about how much risk is the company willing to take depending on what business area they're focused in.
Absolutely. And I think, that demystification is so much tied to simplification and the language we use, making it their own and what they already know. So I think, when you talk about MFA versus what they actually are doing is MFA. So definitely makes sense. And I hope you're taking note about that. So, in the last few minutes you got, Jeff, I wanted to, give you a chance to talk about what the chamber is doing in this space, right? Because there's a ton of work getting done. I think some of those are examples for the region here, but also broader nationally that we can, share with others.
Thanks, Val. One of the things I want to talk about is why this is so important now and why it's so critical that we generate additional momentum. Karen mentioned COVID. And, one of the things that COVID highlighted to all of us was that there is still a true and big digital divide in this nation. And it's not just in rural communities, it's also in cities like San Antonio. And while we have a great organization called SA Digital Connects that's working to get fiber and other connectivity out to neighborhoods that don't have high-speed internet, in those neighborhoods, there are businesses, there are small businesses that have no web presence right now. But once that is available to them, they are going to try to take advantage of it because it's going to help them market, it's going to help them get their name out. And whether it's something that's a mobile site friendly, whether it's, an extension of their point of sale system online, more than likely, that's going to, a new attack surface, it'll expand their attack surface. And we have to help all of those new small businesses that are about to get up online for the first time catch up and maintain this momentum. So it's something that the chamber is keeping an eye on as we work with, our partners across town and SA Digital Connects is, what's step 2? Step 1 is get the fiber to the neighborhoods. Talk about step 2, talk about the education, the training, the families. We want to make sure that they can access government websites and government services, that kids can, sign on and, either, attend virtually or do, virtual, additive classes, health services from the home. But for the business side, we also have to make sure that we've got something put together to be ready to help that big push that's really right around the corner, with some of the momentum that we're seeing. But it is one of the things that chambers do well. It's connect and convene. And so we're bringing folks together who want to help in the community. We're trying to get the word out, and we're using partners across town to educate. But it's not just educate, it's provide the resources so they understand the issue and then they can take action, and we enable them to do it on their own, but also say, hey, there's help available too.
That's so vital. I think there's that communication and connection is extremely important, and that aids the work that Karen, is just kind of doing, demystifying, taking it to the next level. Karen, what does Cyber Institute, what is it looking forward to do in the next few months, years? What's the next?
Well, first off, I want to give a shout out to Cymani, because we have a partnership with Cymani, and we're foundational. So what we are really doing is working with partners to extend out this foundational cyber hygiene core 4 issues. And so, and we have metrics and we measure all this. So I want to give a shout out to them, because we're working really closely for small and mid-sized manufacturing. But in the next few months, we're going to be updating our content to version 3, because we've been working with our member companies and they're using our content within their own security programs, within their own supply chains, to be able to help their partners. So I am going to give a shout out, if you guys get a chance. Apple is here with me today. And so Brooke, if you guys want to talk to her, you should reach out to her. So we'll be releasing our version 3. And the last thing that I want to say is, if you don't know where to start and you come to the CRI site, there's a starter kit. It says right here, how to get started, and you download the starter kit. So you don't have to know anything. So we're all about be cyber ready. So you can come to our website, becyberready.com, or the cyberreadinessinstitute.org.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. And Corey, what's next? What's up and coming for Cybertar? And peace, love, and Cybertar, love it.
Well, it's exciting to be able to bring what we're bringing to the cybersecurity industry, whereas outsourced cybersecurity. One of the things we're doing is democratizing a lot of it. A lot of the things that Karen brought up, but we mirror that, because we really want companies to be able to be secure just by default and make it easy. And when you talk about like cybersecurity insurance, is one of the partnerships we've just gotten solid with. One is Marsh Insurance. We've partnered with them. We've also partnered with Net Diligence, and we're focusing in that area. And when you think about it, and this is I'm about to completely date myself here, but when I was a kid, I didn't have a car seat. My mom was probably carrying me here. And you think about in cybersecurity insurance, you're required to have a car seat. I've seen, the third light come out on cars. I've seen seat belts become standards. In cybersecurity, we have to evolve to that point where we have preventative controls in place. And that's critical, but we aren't there yet. We're more just kind of detecting. So I want to see us get to that point as an industry where you can actually focus on the preventative controls and then detect and respond after that. And that's one of the goals of Cybertar, is really to evolve the industry to where we look at it that way, kind of like physical safety or car safety, so that insurance becomes just an easy thing. You're already checking those boxes by default.
Well, that's fantastic. I think that's a great note to close this panel out. But in true CFF fashion, these are all, great leaders, but also they're at your service. This conversation doesn't end here. It actually starts here. I think the milestone for this summit is that we have collectively put together the resources that you can tap into. So please give a great round of applause to our friends here, and do a fantastic job to the service. Okay, so we'll take a couple of minutes before we switch over the panels, and then I'd like to take a couple of more moments to recognize all the students who are here.